Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Wasatch Taxpayers Association Candidate Forum. Tonight we have the Heber City Council candidates. On my left here is Jeff Bradshaw, Ron Crittenden, Mike Johnston, Rachel Kaler, Perry Rose, and Ryan Stack. We're going to do 3 different questions for about 20 minutes. The first question, I'd like to start with Jeff, and we'll start this conversation going. The first question is, we would like to know, are you going to enforce and support agreements that were made prior to this election? There's some very important agreements that have been made. One of which is the MOU with the county on the Annexation Policy Plan of the city's map of what is now in their annexation area. There was an MOU agreement done with the county. I want to know if you're going to support it and enforce it. The second one that we thought of was the Red Ledges Eastern Bypass Agreement, where Red Ledges has to build their section of the bypass road and the city park by Lake Creek Road, and they're starting next spring, and they should be done by the end of next year. Those are the 2 that we've come up with that have been agreed upon in the last year or 2, and we want to know if you're going to enforce those in the future. Jeff, why don't you start?
Do you want me to talk about the first one first, and then?
You can do it however you like. You can talk about it in general, you can talk about specifics.
Well, we passed a memorandum of understanding with the county because in large part, at least my feeling is a lot of the northern part of the annexation map has, there are a number of developers that have done an awful lot towards starting their development within the county, and the county has done a lot of work, preliminary work, preparing them for that. And myself personally, I think it's good that we have an understanding between the county and the city. If a development chooses to and wants to be annexed into the city, I think that there ought to be some things that we need to agree upon with the county. I hate to say we're in bed with the county, but I think that we are neighbors and we have mutual interests, and they have some things that they are planning on providing some services to those areas, whether they're developed in the county or whether they choose to be annexed in the city. And I think that we need to enforce and go along with that memorandum of understanding between the city and the county. So yes.
So some of those were density approvals prior to the city annexing, so you're willing to keep those densities?
I think that unless there is some reason that we wouldn't want to, and we talk with the county and work it out somehow so that that could be done rationally between the 2 entities, and we could get along.
How do you feel about Red Ledges then? Let's move on to the Red Ledges.
Okay. I think that the Red Ledges has made an agreement to build that road, what we call
Eastern Bypass?
Yes, the A portion, the A, B, and C, and I think that
yeah, it's the C portion. It's the C portion.
Okay, I got it back.
That's okay.
We're B, and yes. But I think that is something that Red Ledges needs to do. I think there's some disagreement on the city council right now as to whether we need to have them do it immediately or not, and that depends on how you look at it. I'm not sure the city can get the B portion built along with Red Ledges, and it doesn't look like the A portion is going to get built anytime soon in the future.
Okay, we're going to move on. Anybody else want to jump into this, or should we go right down? Go ahead, Ron.
I'll grab that quick. I'll start with the Red Ledges.
Please speak up a little bit more, too.
Since I got in, I took that issue in 2016. They punted the ball down the road several times. I got involved, got a commitment that they'd build it by 2019 unless we agreed otherwise. When they come into 2019 and asking for more time, I got very involved along with Heidi Franco, and we got a signed agreement that 3 of the city council voted for, or 4. I know it passed. So I think we've made a commitment. They've made a commitment. They bonded for it. They need to finish it, and we need to do our part. We need to do our section. It's an embarrassment if we can't build ours in 2 years when we're asking them to build theirs. So I'm committed to doing everything I can to get C, everything I can to get B. Let A take care of itself. It ought to be built too.
And A is closest to Highway 40.
To the highway, so I'm committed. We made a commitment. On the MOU, I made a commitment with the county. I intend to keep it. Prior to our discussion of the annexation policy area, that huge area north of Heber, there was a lot of discussion as why in the world would they want to annex and pay more tax if it isn't to get more density. So part of my reason for being involved with the county and getting the agreement that we wouldn't give any more density, I don't think we agreed to give less, but that we wouldn't give any more density to the county. There shouldn't be an incentive to come into the city just to get more density. They've already got 5,700 homes planned for that area. So yes, I'll keep that as hard as I can and limit the density to what was agreed to.
Okay. Mike, you want to keep going?
Sure. I think memorandums of understanding with the county are important documents, and I think they hold weight. I see no reason that we would want to do something different. I support both of them.
And the Red Ledges one as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I do believe that that road's going to come first. It's going to end at Mill Road, and that's going to cause some, it's going to bring more traffic into that neighborhood without anywhere. It'll have to disperse up through Valley Hills. We'll see. I think that's going to happen. But you know, traffic's increasing anyway. I agree with Ron. I'd like to see this phase be done sooner than later. And I would love to see, I really would love to see the whole thing done all the way to Highway 40. I don't see any reason to give any additional density into the North Village and the Jordanville area. I think, that, I don't know, and not in my lifetime.
Right.
So certainly as I'm, the next 4 years when I'm on the council, I don't see any reason that there's any reason they would even ask for it, and there's any reason we would consider that.
Rachel?
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to be on the Annexation Steering Committee over the last 9 months, and there's no interest in increasing the density. The density that the Sorensen Foundation has asked for and received in 2006 is what they want to build, and it's a 40-year plan. So I don't see any need for additional density. I don't see the developer asking for additional density, and I don't think we need additional density. But I think the most important part of that annexation is the open space and the opportunity that this community can grow, and that Heber City will have revenue for the next 40 years, but we can actually plan. We can put parks and trails and homes and design standards, and we can actually move forward our city into the next 40, 50 years with one developer that's willing to work with us.
Well, there's more than one developer in that whole annexation area, a lot of which goes up Highway 40, and there's a lot of areas that could be more dense if the city council approves it. I think the citizens want managed growth.
Right.
And if you're willing, in fact, hasn't the Planning Commission talked about doing some extra density bonuses for parks and open space? I mean, you've already been talking about extra density, right, Ryan?
So what staff brought to the Planning Commission was a proposed ordinance that had been requested at the behest of the City Council to talk about ways to generate and maintain more open space in developments. And there was a list of ideas of incentives that could be offered to developers as ways to obtain more open space in a given development. There were a list of maybe 8 or 9 different considerations. one of which was increased density. My recollection is there wasn't anybody on the planning commission, myself included, who wanted or supported that idea as an incentive that could be offered.
And it seemed at the time that it was not a plan, it wasn't a proposal, it was a discussion within the planning commission at the request of the council to explore additional options. So, and if I could answer the Eastern Bypass
Yes.
question as well. I think it's important that we continue to build out our transportation system within Heber City. And I think that Eastern Bypass is an essential part of expanding our road system. Option C is already committed by Red Ledges. I think it's essential that Heber City complete option B. And I think we need to work with the developer of New London Springs to complete option A as quickly as we can so that it does become what it's intended, and that is to take traffic from Highway 40 away from the neighborhoods and back onto Center Street.
Okay. Perry?
I'm concerned about, let me do the Red Ledges ones first. I'm concerned about this road coming down through there. An Eastern Bypass is a necessity, and it's coming. I don't want to be in the place that we are right now of Main Street bypass. But we've got to do something on the east side because we're getting a lot of development. We've got to control our development, both on the east, west, everywhere in this community. And people say, well, you can't stop growth. No, but you can control it. This density thing, I feel like it's out of control. I like what people have put this Band-Aid on it when they say open space. Really, what is open space to you? Is it a park, a walkway? Or did you move here so you could see the Northfields? Did you move here so you could see the Timpanogos? But these houses are popping up all over, and your view's getting obstructed, and people are getting upset about it. And we bring in this open space as a park and a walkway. You can't see nothing out of it. So we got to change our opinion, in my belief, of a open space. The other one so I'm concerned about that roadway, and here's why. If Timberlakes and if all of the east side traffic starts using that bypass, we're going to dump all that traffic onto Mill Road. When you start dumping that traffic onto Mill Road, our cost of law enforcement is going to go up. I will guarantee you, because I was up there knocking on doors, campaigning, and as I talk to them people, their biggest gripe on that road right now is speed of vehicles and the amount of traffic going up and down Mill Road on the north end. Now we're going to take a major bypass and dump it on there. So we say to ourselves, all right, but we can get Heber City to do theirs. We've got control of that. Do we? Do we have the budget? Do we have the money? I want to investigate that. Okay, let's put that down there, but we've got to be kind to the people that their backyards are going to be that highway. We've got to respect that. We have to respect our cemetery. So if we put that road through there, now we're going to dump it on the 550 east, all that traffic, and then where's it going? It's going to come right back down to 5th North and right down in front of our school and all of our churches. Realistically, that's worse than what we have right now. So we have to have part A. It all has to be done together, or we have to close the roads and say we're not using them until we get it all done. And that's my on the Red Ledges. MOUs are very important with the county. I worked with Heber City as a young officer for many years. I watched the county and the city fight amongst each other. I seen one trying to get rid of one law enforcement officer, which was the chief of police and the sheriff, and one getting elected. They've been backbiting for so many years that it's sickening. Finally, everybody's starting to come together. MOUs are important. MOUs say, listen, we're going to do what we're saying we're going to do, and we're going to do what we're saying we're going to do, and we're going to work together to accomplish the goal. A city can't go without a county, and a county can't go without a city. And our school board can't go without either one of them, because every time we do a development and we had 0.9 children per household, we're having to build new schools.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to stop you there.
Understand.
Ryan, please answer.
Thank you. So let's start with the MOU. What's important about the MOU isn't just what's in it, but what it represents. And that's the increased relationship building between the city and the county, right? The city and the county have had, as Perry mentioned, a contentious relationship in the past, and that has, in the last several years, started to thaw. That's a good thing. When entities cooperate, the citizens win, and I think we want to continue to encourage that type of cooperation. And the MOU represents that. It's an important document, and it's also an important gesture. And even though it says it can be unilaterally terminated with 60 days notice by either party, that's not my intention if elected. I think what the MOU represents is very important. I certainly don't have any interest or support for supporting annexations just to increase density. I don't think that's responsible. I don't see any vote for something of that nature. I'd like to support the MOU. I think we want to continue to work with the county. I think it's good that the special service districts that are already in place and have invested in their infrastructure be able to provide the service in those areas covered by the MOU. And in looking at red ledges, I've heard a number of folks equally ask, when's the bypass coming? When are we going to build the eastern bypass? Traffic is a problem trying to get into town off of 40, and it's a question I hear over and over again. And Red Ledges has been able to kick the can down the road a lot of times with their portion of constructing that eastern bypass. And I think it's time that we keep a firm deadline in place. But at the same time, their frustration is understandable if the city hasn't been able to build their part. We don't want to task Red Ledges with building a road to nowhere. So I think it's important, and it highlights the fact that the city has to make it a priority to get their portion of the bypass done. Work with the New London development to get in their segment of the road and make sure that we can put in the eastern bypass as quickly as we can.
Okay, thanks. One thing I do want to mention is, in the last few years, the county has actually lowered their densities, got rid of bonus densities, and had a base density. And so my question really quick, if we can go down the line, is if Sorensen and that whole annexation boundary now is going to go way north with 9,000 plus units, how much do we really need to annex around us in all 4 directions in the near future? Ryan, really quickly, I mean, are you for annexing in all directions? I mean, how much can the market absorb of these units that we're putting out there if we approve?
Sure. Well, the market's going to dictate as it will, right? The market's going to dictate what gets built in which locations, notwithstanding whether it's in the city or in the county. The MOU that's in place that references the annexation agreement doesn't support annexation in all 4 directions. There's an agreement not to go east of Mill Road and other agreements that are in place, and I think we should honor those. I don't see any interest in expanding the boundary beyond what's currently in the map.
Perry, really quickly?
I think that you're right. We don't need to continue to annex within the city. Property rights are a big thing, but if they're going to get the same in the county as they're going to get in the city, that's where I stand. They should be no different.
Rachel?
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. I think as we've built the annexation plan, we've looked at that, and that's the 40-year plan is really the most important, that we're looking at and annexing what we need to and help the city grow healthy.
Mike?
The city isn't going to grow east. It's already been serviced by Twin Creek Special Service District, and they've got their densities. City's not going to grow south. We're already against Daniel. There's like 1 or 2 parcels, maybe the rocks, quarry and stuff, or the Delta Stone. I don't see any desires of anyone, and certainly no political desire to annex into the North Fields and to develop the North Fields in any way. I suspect we could. There's a few places at some point we might annex the sewer fields if we ever go to mechanical sewer and that would present itself. I would prefer things such as those properties to be in Heber City rather than be in an adjoining city.
Okay, right. Ron, please.
Yes, we did an annexation policy area just recently. It goes to the edge of the sewer farm, it goes to Mill Road. I do not want to prioritize, however, Sorensen over anyone else. There are other properties, as you even indicated, up Highway 40 besides Sorensen. And I am not in favor of annexing the whole piece of Sorensen's in one great big chunk for that very reason. I don't think we annex 5,700 homes and say that's enough now. Because I think every single property owner in the annexation area, and there's others, northeast, northwest part and other places, have every bit as much right as Sorensen does. And just because Sorensen's hurried and put a petition in, I'm not in favor of taking that whole piece. I don't even think our city is prepared or enabled to deal with the whole acreage.
Okay, Jeff?
As far as the annexation goes, Heber City, as it's already been stated, we're not going to go east because of Mill Road and the agreements that we've made with Wasatch County to go any further that way. We got the North Fields on the west and the South Fields. We got Daniels on the south. The only place that our annexation map really goes is mostly to the north. And yes, there are a number of developers out there that possibly could seek annexation, and I think that we need to if they want to be annexed into the city and they make application and we study it and decide to do it, that's what we ought to do. If not, then we have not to do it. But it's not something that we need to decide ahead of time who we're going to annex and who we're not going to annex until they apply, and if they apply.
Okay, thank you.